Bonjour à tous.
Merci à Charlie Bromberg, qui est Shutdown, voilà, créateur d'Exegol, de nous présenter une conférence pour présenter son outil. Welcome to Shutdown, qui est Charlie Bromberg, founder of Exegol, a solution for audit and pentester. Nice conference, and thank you.
Thank you very much. So we kind of found a basic, very standard system for showing you the slides and the demo that I was planning to do. As you can see, I hope everything will like is going to be okay. The talk is about Exegol. By a show of hands, I'm wondering who uses Kali Linux daily. No one uses Kali Linux. Those who don't, yeah, I mean, all right. The ones that you don't use Kali Linux maybe use something like Ubuntu or Debian directly. By show of hands, some of you, all right. So we have a majority of Debian-based users, and maybe some Parrot OS users. Parrot? No one. And Windows. No. Keep your hands down. This is like shame on you. Shame on you. So those of us that do cybersecurity, especially offensive cybersecurity, may have crossed hairs with Kali Linux in the past. Kali Linux is like the best, the most mainstream environment for doing offensive stuff, and as of lately, defensive stuff as well. But it's kind of a limited environment also. By a show of hands, again, who never encountered any issue whatsoever, like outdated tools or dependency issues with Kali Linux? And it went out. All right. Hope they're going to find a solution. So right now, what I'm going to do is work without the slides and talk to you directly. So who never encountered any issue with Kali Linux by a show of hands? So there's no one. And that's basically where I wanted to go, where I started from a few years ago. I was at a client's doing a penetration testing, and like I was young. It was one of my first, and I was using many tools, Empire, Starkiller, Death Star, many Star Wars related tools. And at one point, I wanted to try another one called Death Star. And by installing this tool, it kind of messed up my whole Kali Linux system. Everything was conflicting. So I had a great idea. This great idea was to do apt purge Python. So this is the greatest idea ever. By doing so, my whole system was broken, and I couldn't use my Kali Linux anymore to do that pen testing engagement. And this wasn't the first time. I've like every 2 months or so, I was reinstalling it because with every tool that I was installing, it was messing up my dependency, and that is something you probably have encountered. If you ever do a apt upgrade on a Kali Linux, you know that this is a dangerous operation, and you might lose your system. Another thing is, and this really is itching me now, when I see students or professionals, especially professionals, that use Kali Linux directly on their machine as a bare metal installation, I'm kind of disturbed by that. Like there's a kind of feeling that goes through my body. I'm like, this is not, like, this is wrong. This is not how you do operational security engagements, because as you're installing tools and doing penetration tests, your environment is evolving, and you're connecting basically every network that you are working with all together. And as security professionals, we usually advise against that kind of behaviors, but we do so ourselves. So at that time, when I had to go back to the hotel room that night with my broken Kali Linux and recover all my data and tools, I said to myself, never again. I'm fed up. It's been 1 year, 2 years. I've been installing and reinstalling Kali Linux. Never again. So I created something called Exegol, which at the time was just a single Docker file. And we started from there. And then because Docker is really a pain in the ass to use, we did a wrapper around it. And because that wrapper was a pain in the ass to maintain, we transferred that bash wrapper to a Python one, etc., etc., etc. And nowadays it's become great. Now here are the sites. Nowadays it's become one of the alternatives to Kali Linux and similar systems, which are limited because of how they are designed. So let's see together now that I have something to show you. This is basically what we need when we are professionals and we are doing engagements. We need isolation. We don't want the various networks that we're working on to be indirectly connected. We want reliability. We don't want to reinstall the system every 2 months. We want you can see it. Oh, you can't anymore. All right, all right. You want to reproduce the test that you're doing. This is because, and it's back. All right, we're gonna do this back and forth a few times, but stay with me here. Reproducibility is basically you telling the client, I did this and this and these tests. It worked or didn't. But if you want to do that all over again in 6 months or 2 years, you can from the exact same environment. And you as a professional are using many, many tools daily. And this is your responsibility as a professional to be transparent on what you do, to be secure, and to be to offer reproducible processes, let's say. If you use a tool with a specific version, with a specific configuration, you want your client to be able to do that again, if you are a professional. But we are all professional, aren't we? You want also traceability. If you do something with your machine on someone else's network, you might want to be able to say what you did at which time. And basically with Kali Linux and every other system, they are not meant for this. So here is basically a comparison of how you can install those monolithic systems, Parrot, Kali, BlackArch, Temple OS, etc. You have usually a ISO, which is a template that you can deploy in a virtual machine. Or some choose to do a dual boot or even a bare metal installation of that system. But here are the limits. If you do a bare metal installation, a host install, isolation is bye-bye, reliability bye-bye, reproducibility bye-bye. You can do that with virtual machines. There's a theory about this that you can do snapshots and deploy snapshots in cloned environments, but who really does that? No one, because it's like very, very heavy. It takes a lot of time. And I think I saw it on LinkedIn this morning. Someone was saying, oh, but working with virtual machines is perfectly okay. It just takes me like 10 minutes to create a new environment. So 10 minutes may not seem like a lot to you, but when we're going to do the demonstration, if we wait for 10 minutes, the talk will be over, and we'll have nothing to show for. So it's a bit tedious. The alternative to all this kind of headaches is Exegol, or basically what we rely on. We rely on Docker. Who has used Docker by a show of hands once in their life? And keep your hands, those that have trouble understanding how it works. All right, there's a new hand that just shows up. I don't know how this happens. We made the choice to use Docker because it's very lightweight. It uses the same root file system, the same kernel. It doesn't have to virtualize the hardware. It relies on the same things. So it's very lightweight. And when you have an image, an ISO, let's say, for virtual machines, you deploy a Docker image in containers. But let's say your Docker image is 50 gigabytes. If you deploy 10 containers, it doesn't take 10x 50 gigabytes. We're not even close to that number. You could do 5, 10, 15, 20 containers. You wouldn't even see the difference. So for all the problems that I mentioned earlier, we've been working on solutions. Some are the core principles of Docker, and some are other modules that we worked on and added along the way. So one of the first key points, let's say, of Exegol and Docker basically, is being able to run multiple environments. So we have multiple images. If you want to do Active Directory engagements, web engagements, OSINT, etc., you have those images ready to be deployed and ready to be used. You can deploy them in various containers, so you'll have different configurations, basically like what you're doing with virtual machines. And this is project isolation. This is pretty basic stuff. You have the ability with virtual machines to deploy various machines with various configurations. With Docker container, it's basically the same thing. And for the pros, and this is where Docker was not helpful at all because it's not their job to do that, we developed things over that. So for example, some said in the past that, yeah, okay, Exegol is great, the choice of tools is great, but I have my own methodologies, I have my own tools, I have my own configurations. This is possible now with something called My Resources. We have templated that, and you have the ability to deploy Firefox policies, Python 3 packages, Tmux configuration, same thing for Vim, NeoVim, etc., etc. You can do like import your own custom queries for Bloodhound, and if that is not enough and you want to go further, you have basically the ability to run any user scripts at container start, at container creation. So this means that we offer you what we think and what you think is the best choice of tools, because you can also vote on the tools that we add in the future. And if that's not enough and you have your own private configurations, you can deploy that with My Resources. You have also the ability with ASCII Nema, which is a way of recording a terminal to record everything that you're doing locally on your machine and be able to have that like full transparency on what you did. And it happened to me in the past, if a client goes like says, okay, what did you do at 2 p.m. exactly? Because there is a system that went down at that time. I want to know what tests you run. Well, you have the ability to not only respond, but prove it, because like we have a timestamp in the prompt plus a recording of everything you did and everything you received. So you can say, it was me or it wasn't me. You also have the ability, and this is something that we'll see later on during the demonstration, if the screen works, is network, let's say, isolation. And we have included a lot of features that we think is very user-friendly, because, for example, with VPNs, if you're doing Hack the Box, who knows Hack the Box by show of hands again? Okay, so most of you, which is a training platform, you have to use a VPN to connect to the machine that you want to attack, but you don't want your host system to be exposed to that network, right? You don't trust them with that. And you shouldn't, and you're right to be skeptical. But you want your container to be able to attack that machine. So we have included something, which is you give your VPN configuration. It connects your container to the target environment, and that's it. And your host is not connected to that, just your container, like as if you did this with a virtual machine, but again, lightweight. And there is something more. Who thought, let's not do a show of hands anymore, because shame of you if you did, but there are many people who think that with Docker, you are basically going to say bye-bye to graphical applications. This is wrong. You can use graphical applications through Docker. It just takes a little configuration, but with Exegol, you don't have to do that, because we manage that for you. But if that's not enough, you can now access a fully fledged desktop environment through your browser, and this gives you the ability to deploy Exegol on, for example, a distant remote server, and access this from your grandma's PC, for example. So this is very nice. I'm going to show that to you later on. All that is open source. You can check the source, review it, contribute to it if you want. Everything is basically open source from what we do, and we document a lot. I'm going to show you how it looks like. And this is how it works, basically. So we have a Python wrapper. The Python wrapper handles all the Docker operations and Git operations and other MISC stuff. You basically have a set of actions: install an image, start a container, blah, blah, blah. And you will be able to select your image, deploy it in containers, configure your containers, use it, stop it, destroy it, and rinse and repeat. Everything is compatible with Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, even if we don't like some systems among them. And it's also compatible with multiple architectures, CPU architectures. So if you want to, for example, make a Dropbox with a Raspberry Pi, you can do that. It's basically compatible with ARM64 devices and your latest Apple Silicon chips. We use a lot of software to do that. The stack is pretty much complete. We have a pretty intense CI/CD pipeline to, like, every time that we do a commit on our images, let's say, there is a battery of tests to make sure that our code is compliant with our structure that we defined, and this applies to the contributions of the community. There's the images are built, tested. There is a unit test for every tool that is installed, so that we make sure that no image is published on our Docker Hub registry if there's a tool that messed up somewhere because we messed up the installation. And this is the documentation. Right now it's using read the docs. In the upcoming weeks, it will be migrating to something else, pretty nicer. But right now it's very, very complete. I'm going to show you how it looks like. If you have any question, you can use the search option here. And if you just scroll here, you'll have everything you want. You can have troubleshooting questions. There is the frequently asked questions here, tips and tricks. There's the list of aliases, tools. If you want to know, oh, I do want to know if Ligolo NG is in an image, you can do so here, and you'll have all the list of tools installed in the latest nightly image. You have all the explanation, basically, of all the wrapper actions. Here, if you want to see how start works, for example, you'll have all the options, all the explanation. You also have an explanation of how my resources work. So if you say, I do want to add my own tool, you can read that part, and it basically tells you how to do that. If you want to use services inside of Exegol, like note-taking applications, a web shell, whatever, the password will always be Exegol for the win. This is the default password. You can change it, of course. And this is how you basically use the services. So we try to make the things easy for you, but if you still have questions, and I'm going back to the presentation here, you have the possibility to go to the Discord server where we have 2,500 people there, and we try to be helpful to each other. But if you say the magic word, which is Kali Linux, you will be insta-banned. That's it. Just so you know, you're advised. There is no more slides, thankfully. Now the goal would be to demonstrate how it works, and hopefully it will work. So this is my Mac OS terminal. As you guessed it, a Mac is incapable of doing anything offensive stuff related. So that's where Exegol comes into play. With Exegol info, I take information on what are the available images. So we see, for example, that there is the nightly image, which is the developer's image, but it's available to you all. The full light web Active Directory and OSINT. We can see three things here. We can see that there's an automatic update check. Here are the tools not installed, and here's the storage that it takes in my disk. It seems like a lot, but again, once you have that image running, installed, you can deploy it on many containers, and it doesn't take a lot of space. I did the test a few weeks ago with Kali Linux, deploying maybe 10 containers or 5 containers. You'll have to find out on LinkedIn, but the difference is pretty staggering. Once it's deployed, deploying a first container from scratch for Kali takes about 20 minutes. For Exegol takes about 10 minutes because you'll have to download the image. But if you do that again and again and again, the second container for Kali is 20 minutes, plus 20 minutes, plus 20 minutes, plus 20 minutes. With us, once the image is installed, it's like 10 seconds. So I'm going to just show you how it works. These are my containers on my machine based on the images here and with this configuration. But basically, if I follow Exegol start, there is an interactive menu showing me a set of options. So here I'll have to select the container that I want to start, but I don't want to start one. I want to create another. So let's create one called like this. No container is available. Do I want to create one? Yes. It loads the images from the registry, does a lot of checks. And then I just select the image that I want that container to be based upon. It's start X quartz, which is the utility that allows to do X11 forwarding to use GUI applications. But this is a pretty shitty utility, so we'll not do that. I just have to review the configuration, the default one. And if I agree with it, I just hit enter, and the container is going to start. And here I am in the container. So I have the ability to use, for example, nmap and do whatever I want. I'm not on my Mac. I'm on a container. But if I exit this container and try to list it, it's going to be listed in the containers section. If I want to have more information regarding the container itself, let's say at verbosity, I have everything I want here. And if I know exactly what container I want to create with the right options, and I don't want to go through the interactive menu, I can do so as well. And we have another one. I could do that 10 times. If you have to do that with virtual machines every time, just I'll let you do the math. So here we have the basic containers that we need. I can remove them. I can also share, of course, files with my own host system if I want to save some stuff and have a persistent volume. I can do Exegol remove. There is auto-completion as well, because why not? And those two containers are removed, no trace, rinse, repeat. So that's how basically it works. Let's say, for example, that I want to go and do some shady stuff on a Hack the Box machine. So we're going to use this machine for us. It's a pretty much easy one. The goal here is not to make a write-up of the machine. It's just to show you how to use Exegol in that kind of context. So let's use the right container. Let's create one. Exegol starts. We'll create, oh, you can do also -h because it's just a Python wrapper. But let's do start this, or call it forest, for example. Oh, and I have the command ready. I just choose here to rely on this OVPN configuration file. Disable X11 because I don't want to use that on my Mac. And I want to use the desktop environment that I talked to you about earlier. So I just run it. I just confirm, enter, and I should be able, once it's started and once the desktop is available, to ping the target machine, which is 10.10.10.161. So let's do the ping, and it works. This is, the demo gods are with us. If I try to do that with my own Mac OS, it doesn't work because, as I said, there is network isolation. Only the container is connected to that VPN. Lastly, I want to show you what the desktop looks like. We can open that, enter the credentials, and that's it. We are on our system. One very, very important stuff, you can change your wallpaper, just so you know. It's I know. It was one of the pretty difficult features to implement, but it's here now. Let's say, for example, that you want to use Burp Suite. You have the ability to do so. Start your project, and I mean, it's just like a standard environment. It's just through your browser. I know, magic, right? Okay, so now we want to do real stuff. We want to attack the machine. So we're going to start with, we know this machine's IP, so we're going to do something. We're going to add this machine to something called the profile SH, the Exegol history. I'm going to show you how we did that a few weeks ago before the release of the second version that happened a few days ago. Before that, we had to go to Exegol Tools, Exegol History, Profile, and modify something called the target with our own IP. And you'll see in a minute how exactly that is useful. Reload my shell. And now I'm going to do something like nm for Linux. And that's it. And this is the example of the variabilized preset history in Exegol. We have a set of hundreds of commands with the right options that we usually use in such engagements. And they have environment variables in them. And these environment variables, you can set them with a profile sh. This is something that was called Exegol History v1. But we have released Exegol History v2 a few days ago, and I'm going to try to show you that, and I hope it will work, because it's a pretty much fresh release. We saw with NM for Linux that basically we can enumerate stuff. It basically tells us the next step, which is asrep roast, so we're going to do that. I just type Control R to load the history, asrep, and I'm going to use this one, for example. If I run it, we see that the domain and the DC IP should be specified. This is because we don't know them. But if we analyze this result, NM for Linux, we can find it here, htb.local and forest.htb.local. We can, again, enter it here. No. And if I do it again, it should work. And it does. And what's the next step here? We have a hash, we have to crack it. But do you know the type by heart of that kind of hash? Well, I don't, because I don't care about it. So I just hashcat, asrep, find this one, enter, and it doesn't work. But this is because it's not the right tool. And we have the right one here. We have just set this in the preset history again, but there's now another thing that I want to show you. It's the set of aliases. When you want to choose, for example, a word list, we have a custom-made alias called FZF word list, which basically fuzzy finds word list based on what you type in sets of directories. So let's say I want to use rockq. I just type rock, enter, and let it run. We're just going to wait for it to find the answer, because I don't know it by heart. And we have it here. We have the password, which is service. So now we're going to use Exegol History v2, because now we have credentials. So let's use it. Exegol History add creds, and we're going to use, I don't know how it's called. Yeah, that's it. The name of the account is SVC Alfresco. The password is service, and the domain is the domain. So now we can show it. I don't remember what command is. It's export creds. So we have these credentials ready for us to be used. And now we're going to do some magic stuff. Exegol apply, creds. I'm going to have to choose the one I want to apply. I use SVC Alfresco. And now there's something that changed in my prompt. All the variable history commands will be used with these credentials. So I could run NM for Linux again, but authenticated. So let's do a test with netexec, for example. In LDAP, authenticate just like this. And does it work? No, it doesn't, because we don't do DNS resolution. We're going to do basically that. Does it work? Oh, it's not. There's no Kerberostable. Oh no, I know what we did wrong. etc resolve. And that's it. We have a valid set of credentials here. So what would be the next step then? It would be to enumerate the domain. So we just run bloodhound, which is the like the best tool to do that in Active Directory domains. Control R, again, we're going to find the bloodhound.py, which is the ingester. Use these credentials, don't even read it, enter, it runs, we just wait for it. In the meantime, I'm going to start another shell in the same container. So Exegol start, and we're going to use forest. We're going to start Neo4j, which is the database for Bloodhound. And in the meantime, we're going to go right here in we're going to use Bloodhound from here. I just want to see if our enumeration is over with. And it is, so we're just going to load it. Workspace, and this workspace is the volume shared with the host. So once your container will be deleted, you will have the choice to whether keep that or remove it. So we just load it, wait for it to be over, and we could load our SVC Alfresco. Set it as owned, search for new paths, and this is another thing here. We have a set of custom queries for Bloodhound, proper to like a Exegol set of custom queries. So you just use the best one, which is here on objects. Most exploitable paths from owned objects to high value target. This is homemade stuff. We use it. We have our path, and if we follow it, but we will not. We probably won't have the time for it. We will be able to fully take over the domain by following basically the path. That's it. So I think I just showed you what I wanted to show you. When do we finish this? Oh, we do have the time to finish this machine. Nice. You wouldn't have the time with Kali Linux, so I'll take my time. Yes, I'm a diva. I'm a princess. So the next step, if we follow that, is SVC Alfresco is member of a group that is member of a group that is member of another group that has the ability to add our user to Exchange Windows permissions. Exchange Windows permissions has the ability to modify the rights that we have against the root domain hdb.local. So we'll basically, what happen is two steps. One, add SVC Alfresco to the Exchange Windows permissions group, and then escalate from Exchange Windows permissions group to domain-wide permission. So we're going to do that with, I don't remember the command. Doesn't matter. We'll search it on the hacker recipes. This is the ACL abuse. We just follow this chart, and we have the ability. We have a generic all against the root domain, generic all against a group, which is right here. Add member. I just search the add member permission, and we're going to do that with bloody AD or net RPC. So let's do net RPC, for example. Net RPC group. We have it here. Let's print, for example, for now, the members of the Exchange Windows permissions group. What did I do wrong? I don't know. Do I still have connection to the machine? Yes. Oh, there's another thing. You know when you have a command that is almost complete, but you want to check something else first, but don't want to lose it? You copy it, remove it, go to the next one. Just Control Q, it disappears. You do whatever you want to do in the first place, and once it's done, the command comes back again. This is pretty funny stuff. I think I'm having network-related issues with the machine because this doesn't work anymore. Hack the box, please do something. How do I stop it? Here. Let's wait for a bit. All right, I know why. This is an issue on my end. This is the demo effect. I was wondering what it was going to happen. I think we're gonna have to stop here because it doesn't work. And this is what happens when I try to demo something that I just released 5 days ago. But that's it, basically. I'm gonna try to do that later on this afternoon because it's just bugging me right now. Ah, yeah, funny, right? Well, I'm over with the presentation. If you have any question, I will be available this afternoon just before I leave. I hope I'm on time. I'm just great.
Is there any question on the room? We can take like 1 or 2 questions.
In the meantime, I'm just going to debug it.
Yes.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have a question. How do you choose the tools list that you implement into Exegol? Is that tools that you use in your professional day-to-day life or in your personal day-to-day life or whatever?
Yeah, it's based on that. So the first thing is we try to just keep watch on what the tools are, like what the trends are. Sometimes tools are just released very quickly, not maintained. There's a lot of work that goes into following what is released and how things evolve, of course. Whenever we have a doubt, though, we ask the community directly. So, for example, I'll give you a quick example. We have Burp installed, Burp Suite installed in Exegol, which is a proxy used for proxy and tool framework toolkit to do some web penetration testing. But there is another one called Zap. It's the Z attack proxy. We made a choice, which was to have Burp only. But at one point, a few users were like, we would like Zap. We don't know better. We had a feeling that it wasn't needed, but we asked the community. And that's where the community comes into play. They decide. So we just made a vote. They voted for, so we just added it. And it just was released in the last 3.1.6 release of Exegol images. But in the future, for example, we'll have other types of images, which will be our own beliefs and choice. And there will be the full image where you will find all the tools. But if you want to have the image that we believe is the best, you'll have the ability to download it the same way you'll have the ability to download what the community thinks is best.
I have a question. Does Exegol support hardware devices like Wi-Fi antenna in monitor mode?
Yes, yes, it does. It depends on the host operating system that you're using, because right now, Docker Desktop on Windows and Mac OS is basically running through a virtualization layer, lightweight VM through WSL on Windows, and the Apple hypervisor, whatever, on Mac. And they don't allow to mount physical devices. But on Linux, you'll have everything you want. So on Linux, you just plug in the device, and then you'll have the choice here to do Exegol start with, for example, this command to just share your USB device, or this command to use a Proxmark, a HarkRF, whatever. So on Linux, you'll have anything you want. On Windows and Mac OS, well, you made that choice in the first place to use a bad operating system, so just that's it. That's the one of the biggest limitations of using these operating systems.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks you very much, Charlie, for the conference. Very good conference, I think.
Thank you for the invite. Thank you.